live from Barrie, Vermont, from Fly on the Wall Productions. Got an absolutely stellar morning yet again. And we're looking at temperatures right up into the 70s. Went hiking yesterday, got out, got some fresh air, got a black fly stuck in the ear, couldn't get it out. Halfway down the trail, I'm like doing this, I'm going cross-eyed. But I still loved being outside yesterday despite the black flies. There was swarms of them. But anyway, do get out today, even if it's during your lunch break, if you have one, and try to get a breath of fresh air. Please be careful driving. The construction zones are up and running. 302 ran into some delays this morning. We have to try to exercise some patience. So go easy today. Take a deep breath. Leave with plenty of extra time to be where you need to be on time. Good morning to sweethearts and heroes this morning. Good morning, Glenn and Stacy, Becky. Top of the morning to you all. Pat Fish is sitting right next to me. Dude, you and I are like just chewing at each other, bro, already.
Alrighty, it's been fun so far.
God, and some
haven't
guy
even started.
Some guy named Thomas Murphy is tuned in this morning.
Oh boy!
So, tell us. Obviously, we're going to be talking about your book, but tell us about Tom. How did you meet Tom? How did you get involved with Sweethearts and Heroes?
So I don't want to conflict with any of Tom's stories, but
don't listen. Don't.
Here's the truth. Here's how I have it.
Yeah, don't worry about King Tom. Listen, he ain't gonna do nothing. He's on a beach somewhere in the sunshine. He's not gonna be putting either one of us in a chokehold today. So let go with it.
We're safe here.
Just fly.
So, where I went to middle school was actually one of the first places that Tom presented. Now, Tom will tell you that he presented at my middle school, which is true. I wasn't there. I didn't see that presentation. I don't know what I must have missed that day, or maybe I had detention or something like that. I have no idea, but I didn't see the presentation. But, fast forward years and years later, just finishing college, working at a bar in Glens Falls, New York.
Okay.
And in walks Tom with my middle school football coach. And they were there for somebody's, birthday party. I think they were in town speaking at one of the local schools. And actually, my middle school football coach is who introduced me to Tom, and introduced me as the quarterback of the worst football team he's ever coached.
Nice.
And absolutely true. But he said, no one quit that team. And I like to think I had something to do with that. And through Tom and I's conversation, he had me come check out a presentation. I got the chance to meet Rick, and now we're here.
That's so interesting. So they were at your school, and you missed that presentation.
Yeah, I mean, they were. You can look it up. They were 100% there in that time span. I just, if I saw it, I definitely don't remember it, and I think I would have remembered a guy with no ears and no nose coming to my school talking about getting blown up. And
yeah, right.
I didn't miss that much. I mean, my dad was the principal. I didn't miss that much school.
Damn, fella.
Yeah, tough middle school.
So where do you live now? Where are you from?
So I live in a town called Boston Spa. It's right outside of Saratoga, New York.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that where you drove from this morning?
So yesterday I was at a school in Eastern Long Island. So Monday and Tuesday I was in Eastport South Manor, go Sharks. And then I drove up. I made it as far as Ticonderoga, New York.
Okay.
So that cut it down to about an hour and a half this morning, which isn't too bad. But it's been a journey, man. Lots of time in the car, lots of music. It's been fun.
And it's not like you can say to Tom or Leon or anyone with the Sweethearts and Heroes team, oh, God, an hour and a half. I don't know if I can get up that early. You guys are all like so passionate about what you do, and you're being wherever you need to be, no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell people that my job is the driving part. that's the part that sucks.
Yeah.
But when you get to show up to school and have fun, play games,
Sure.
get kids out of class, and have conversations with gentlemen like you, like, it's a whole lot of fun.
Yes.
So I like having fun. So the driving part, not so fun. But once you get to the place where you're going, we work in connections. That's what our job is to make people connect. And I have fun doing that. We just got to get from point A to point B to do it.
I want to lead off this morning by saying that when I dropped the promo last night, I'm where you see the book that you've written, it's about there's poetry in here. Please don't think, oh God, JD's got some poet on from Montpelier this morning. You're a different animal here. You are a poet and an author and a superhero, and you're a lot of things, bro.
The author part I laugh at. They're like,
right.
They're like 8 lines a piece. And my childhood, I absolutely loved Shel Silverstein books. I was all about Shel Silverstein as a kid, which is the one you got to mention because then all of a sudden the poets are like, whoa.
Yes.
Oh yeah. No, you're in. That's cool.
Yes.
And then my second greatest poet of all time is Lil Wayne, and third is Jimmy Buffett.
What?
So like it's a wide mix of characters that are absolutely amazing.
Did
poets
you just
in
say
my
Lil
mind.
Wayne and Jimmy Buffett in the same sentence?
Yes. Yeah, both. I think Jimmy Buffett for his storytelling and his sense of humor, and I think Lil Wayne has that sense of humor, but he's unbelievable with metaphors.
Yeah, interesting. Shel Silverstein. When I was a little kid, The Giving Tree. Yeah, you just took a deep breath. When I was a little kid, I don't know who put that book in front of me. I don't know if I saw it at the library or what, but it was, and I don't even know how old I was. I'm guessing I was probably around 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that ballpark. It was the biggest smack across my head when I read that book. It was more profound than anything that had ever happened to me. That book, I mean, it was the biggest wow. And then all of these years go by, teenage years, and even fast forward. And I had forgotten about it. And I don't know if I was in a bookstore or whatever, but there it was on the shelf. And just seeing the green cover and the little kid and the apple and the tree, I was like, whoa. And there was something that hit me where I'm like, oh, my God. I don't know if I remember the details of the story, but there was this feeling that hit me where I was like, I don't know what it was. I still don't know what it was, but I had to be in my 30s. And I picked up the book and I flipped through the first page. Once there was a tree. And I just started crying.
Yeah.
I think I was in Barnes & Noble or something. And I just got through the first line, and it was like this weird something. There was something somewhere. Neurons were plugged in somewhere. My memory, I don't know what it was. But I just got through the first line, and the whole book came to me. And the feeling of, like, real loving something for real, just flooded me, man. And I'm like sitting there crying at Barnes and Noble. I'm like, and I bought the book, I brought it home, and that's like the one book I was like, if I have a kid someday,
and you want them to appreciate you.
Yeah,
Well, that's what it did for me. I mean, flipping through that, like, I think it was like, as you flip through it, you say you love your parents, but it makes you appreciate those people that, gave everything for you to be where you're at. And that's what we talk about with Sweethearts and Heroes. Like, who's your 16th century bully?
Yeah.
Who's that person that if they hadn't stepped into your life wouldn't be the way it is today?
Wow.
And that's what that book's about. Those trees.
Man.
And those trees are they're there a long time before the little boy even steps into the picture. They've been through some stuff.
Yes. That is so
they give it all
true.
anyways, you know?
Wow. And there's so many different interpretations that people can get, of course.
Oh, from a short children's book, it's unbelievable.
And I've read all the, what people have to say about that book, but man, it's and then it's, what's crazy is, I start in radio and I'm on the air locally, and a couple of schools had reached out to me, and they're like, we're doing some reading stuff, and we'd love for you to come to our school and do, read to the kids. And it was wonderful, and I loved, I was writing about my dog and my relationship with my dog, and I'd read some of that, and they're like, do you have anything else? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to read the Giving Tree. Couldn't do it. I couldn't do it in front of these kids, man.
Yeah.
It's like, and I'm like, think about baseball, and I'm trying to get through it, and it's like, I don't know, man.
I wonder that about Rick. Rick just put out a children's book this year,
God.
and I don't know how he does it, because he's reading about, when Rick tells his story, he's told it so many times, and it's a largely individual story of him, but it's also about the little girl that gave him hope.
Yes.
Now, this book about Amos, his pet, who's no longer around, and that's a difficult thing to have to deal with, especially when it's a pet who really was with you for the entire new change in your life. Like, reading that to little kids, I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it either.
I'll show him on screen right here. Same deal. There's certain things, and obviously we're going to talk about Boredom School here, but I mean, there's certain things that you can't get on Netflix. You can't even get in a reel. Words can be so impactful, and they're permanent. They're printed right there. And a lot of stuff, you might agree, is that we get filtered through adults and kids is just not really, doesn't have the substance to deserve going back and rereading. But some stuff really, really does. And it doesn't matter if you're a kid or, if you have a book like this, it's not just a children's book. I mean, there's something so much bigger than A Bridge Named Amos.
100%. I think, that it really fit where Rick's heart is. Yeah. I think, Rick's story, well, it's impactful for anyone who hears it. I think, at its core, it's that presentation to a group of first graders who, when he first walks in, a kid's hiding his face, because he sees a big scary monster up front. Right. Like, that's where the true magic of Rick's message lies. Sure. And I think, you could go and present to a bunch of adults at some business somewhere and absolutely impact their lives, absolutely give them some hope, absolutely teach them about dealing with struggles, challenges, and adversity, and how, humor can help you through it, because that's really what I take from Rick in his personal life. Like, he's got the biggest sense of humor of anybody I know. But, at its core, it's that, hey, I got through this. Right. You can too. And for those little kids, it's a great message about the sweethearts that help you through challenges.
Sure. Here's the thing about you guys. First of all, I absolutely love and appreciate my relationship with Sweethearts and Heroes in just a short amount of time. Like, literally a matter of weeks, really. And this was just by chance. I mean, my wife was like, you know about Sweethearts and Heroes? My God, how come you don't know? You got to know about these guys. These guys are the real deal. They're the big players.
That's quite a wife impression.
That's exactly what she sounds like, too. I'm telling you right now. But, she, pretty much forced me right into you guys. And as soon as I met Tom and Rick, I mean, you guys are all the real deal. It doesn't matter who comes in here, who I'm talking with. You guys are all dead set on trying to have an impactful experience for our youth, and you guys are doing it. It's like you're not trying to do it, you're doing it. Like Brian was in here just the other day.
Which is unbelievable, because when I first met Brian, me and him both showed up to the same school in charge of this program that we were like, and he looks at me and he goes, "You do the talking, I'll do the writing."
Oh my
God. And I said, "Great." So he kind of sat back and wrote stuff down. And so for him to come get on the microphone and talk with you, he was like, his hands were shaking beforehand.
What?
That's what he said. And but I thought he crushed it, and you couldn't even tell that he was nervous, which is unbelievable. But if you ask him, he'll say, "I was terrified."
And Loudon too.
Loudon's,
all of you
Loudon's
guys
cool.
are the real deal. You're all big hitters. I know that if Tom or Leon says, "Hey, you got this guy coming in," I know that it's going to be somebody who's not just coming in here with a half-ass message. It's real. And I just want to say that to you, that I know that no matter who I've got on, and we're going to have a couple of students on with some really profound testimony that's going to be coming up soon.
Can't wait for that.
I can't wait either. And apparently I'm going to be going to Peru, New York.
Do the podcast.
To do that podcast with a couple of high school
Yeah.
kids that are really linked up with you guys. And I'm a little nervous. I've never been on a podcast with some high school kids. Are they going to chew me alive?
No, they're going to do the same exact thing that you did for all of us, which is make you feel welcome, make you feel at home. And I actually was on the very first episode of that. And
really?
Yes, they pass around a microphone so that it mimics our circle practices,
sure.
Right? So that everyone gets the chance to go. And it's not, they could set up microphones for each student, but that's not what it's about. It's to ensure that there's no interrupting whoever has it. It's their
sure.
turn to talk, and everybody else just has to listen. And
interesting.
I had a little fish in my backpack, and they taped it around to block the microphone. And it's a Fish Perspective podcast.
Oh.
That's not where they were already planning on calling it that, but
they were.
It's yeah, I think it did a nice little job, and it stuck since. So.
Bro, if they're using the word fish, you got to get some royalties here, man. Come
yeah,
on.
It's not after the last name, man. It's not after the last name, but.
Listen, your book, it says here, a Boredom School, for those bored in school, is a playful and profound look at the trials of school life and the students stuck in the status quo. Follow the new kid on a quest to rewrite the rules and create a culture of hope, action, and belonging. Did you know you were going to write this book? Is this book about you?
In parts. I think what's really the nice part about having it be a poetry book is, just like in an album, some songs can fit the narrative, and I do think that there's a connecting storyline throughout it that's very noticeable if you read it from front to back. But if you were to just pick out individual poems, I'd say some of them have to do with my childhood. There's one in there about a kid playing baseball in the backyard by himself, and I used to do that nonstop, no ball, just pretending I was the hitter, pretending I was the pitcher. It's, ninth inning, pressure's on the line, you fake run around, the imagination side of things.
You're actually using your imagination.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a true story in there about a goat eating my homework that happened when I was in, I think, second grade. So there's a lot that have to actually do with me, but then overwhelmingly, it's the students that I've met over the last, 6-7 years, where I've just had the opportunity to hear some really amazing things from some really amazing young people. The new kid is based off of a multitude of new kids that I've met at different schools. Primarily, there's one who's been the new kid 10 times.
Yeah.
I met him when he was in 8th grade.
Yep.
He's been all over the place, and talking with that young man and hearing about his experiences. He's finally at a school that he's been at for 3 years, and just getting to know him over the past 3 years, he's really started to change that culture. And a lot of those poems were written about him doing that before he even did it. So it's been really neat to watch him turn into that character.
Has he read this?
Because I saw it. Yeah, I told him I had the opportunity last year to do a circle in his school and in his classroom, and I was really hoping he was going to be there because, there's no saying. It's not like I'm just going to message a school and say, hey, is this one specific student still at this school.
Wow.
So, I was hoping that I was going to have his class. And when I showed up, he was in there, and I, just introduced the book, which I try not to plug too much when I'm doing circles because that's not what I'm there for. But I got to introduce it and just say, hey, some of this is based on a young man right here in this class. And I got to give him one of the books, and it was a really neat moment for me and hopefully for him as well.
Wow. So is this the kid who is in your book that's moving frequently?
Yeah,
and,
so the first six poems are really trying to set the narrative of a young man who's been in and out of different schools, troubled home life, a story that we've seen in lots of young people. And then from there, it introduces the place Boredom School, where kids are bored in school, and introduces some of the staff, and there's some playful things about some of the teacher stories that I've heard. And, I think one of them in there is math teachers teach math, science teachers teach science, fun teachers teach kids, more teachers should try it. And, there's just some little playful ones about some of the teachers in there. But, as we move forward, you get to see how this young man who's been in all different schools steps into this school that is so boring and goes, hey, you say this school is boring. I have no reason to doubt it, but it's boring because you haven't done anything about it. And he's the one who comes in and starts making things a little bit fun. And that's the piece where I do think has to do a little bit with me, because I was not your high grade student. I was smart. I wasn't really interested in the school game, but what I was interested in was I hope, being kind to others, still having fun. I definitely distracted my teachers way too much, but making people connect can be fun, and giving people hope can be fun. And it turns out that is a real job. So,
wow, man.
Yeah.
I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking of myself when I was in third grade and the things that I did when the teacher wasn't looking. And
ooh, what's your best one? Let's hear one.
The best one was teacher stepped out, third grade, Mrs. Rockwell, stepped out of the class for a minute. And, here's the thing, man. It's like, and this is still who I am. I like to make people laugh. I love to entertain. I love to, if someone's laughing, it makes me feel good too.
Yeah.
So that's just, it's just who I am. I think I still was then. And what can I do? I have an opportunity here. The teacher has stepped out. I have an opportunity. I'm bored with all of the same shit that's coming down the pipe. I want to change it up. I want to have some fun. Let's loosen things up a little bit around here. So quickly, I have to make a decision. So Mrs. Rockwell walks out, and I look up, and the ceiling in our classroom was steel I-beams. So if I stand on my desk and I jump, what are the odds that I'll be able to connect my hands around that I-beam? Pretty good odds. I think I can do it. And by God, I did
nice.
it, Pat. And I got the I-beam, and then I pulled my feet up onto the I-beam as well. So I'm cradling the I-beam.
It's like Tom Cruise stuff.
Yeah, just
right
a
there.
little bit of a little bit of Tom and a little bit of Tarzan, maybe.
Yeah.
And people were laughing. They thought it was great. I'm swinging from the I-beam. So Mrs. Rockwell walks back in, and in the principal's office, I was. This was a long time ago. This was 19. I want to say 19. Thinking here.
Something.
79. 79.
Okay.
78, somewhere in there. Maybe earlier. But the principals at schools back then, no fooling around.
No.
It's different. They weren't worried about saying something to you that would hurt your feelings that you go home and tell mom and dad about. You were held accountable.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in the principal's office, Mr. Duvall. Isn't it amazing how here we are, 54 years old, remember these names?
Yeah. They just pop right back up.
Yeah.
We always say, you remember that kid from your grade that wasn't treated the right way. You probably remember those teachers that made an impact. You probably remember some of those teachers that did not, or the opposite, made an impact in a negative way. And it's funny how that works.
Yes.
And, I could sit here and do it, and people might be like, okay, well, that wasn't that long ago. But
sure.
I've talked with people that are retired, people that are very very old, that can remember that kid.
Yeah, that's right.
That can remember that teacher. So
That's right.
It's really kind of fascinating how it works.
He said to me, remember, like I could still hear it. That I know your mom and dad very well.
Yeah.
And I will call them right now. But I'll tell you what they're going to say to you, and I'll tell you what they're going to say to me. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And he's going to say, or he said, they're going to say, and he knew my parents, both of them, very well.
Yeah.
They're going to say that they're very disappointed. Ooh.
Okay.
Ugh.
It's tough when you're a kid.
Bro, that's not what I wanted to hear. It would have been a lot easier to hear. They're going to say that you're grounded for a week, and that's easier to digest. But disappointed, ooh.
It's a tough word.
And so I was just trying to explain. Hey, man, I didn't mean any harm. I'm just playing around. I'm kind of bored. I'm just playing around, just trying to have some fun.
Yeah.
But it had to be explained to me that that's fine. Do that, but do that at the playground. There's a time and place for everything. Come on, man. You know better. What say Pat Fish?
I think my biggest one had to be, I was actually on a radio station that morning, my high school, where I learned about things like community, culture, a really tight-knit community in my belief. But we have this charity event that dances for 28 hours, and it's been going on every year since 1978.
Really?
They raise one of the highest raising student-run charities in the country. And I got to be a part of that growing up. It's amazing. They do it for people in need. And I saw, these posters on the outside. It's what we're trying to do with these community days, trying to start to build some of that tight-knit community in some places that have it and some places that are working towards having that stronger sense of community. And anyways, we go to this radio station, and I was one of the student chairs for it, helping run it. And it was red and blue day because that was our school colors, and I decided to put on some red long johns, blue shirt, and then a pair of white tighty whities over the top of the long johns. And when I got to the school that day,
it's awesome.
I got in trouble for wearing underwear to school.
Of course you did.
Which I don't know. It was we read Captain Underpants in third grade. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but. Then they found out that I was on the radio in it, and they were like, "You were what?" And I was like, "Guys, it's the radio. You can't see the underpants on the radio." And they were like, "But they talked about it," and turned into this whole thing. But
theater of the mind, brother.
Yeah, just having fun. And I think that's one of the great things about school is you get a bunch of bored kids together.
Sure.
And if, they're not all stuck on these things, then all of a sudden you start to watch as they start to come up with something to do to relieve that boredom.
Yes.
And that's where creativity starts to emerge.
Isn't it remarkable how, I know you and I are freestyling here. We're all over the road. But isn't it amazing how you hear actors and actresses and people who are just unbelievably successful in life often say, didn't really like school, wasn't really a great student. I was bored in school, or I found school boring, or I found school to be a waste of time. I couldn't wait to graduate from high school so that I could just get on with it, and didn't go to college. Isn't that remarkable, though?
It's fascinating. I think, a big piece of that is that's the arts, right? So if you're involved in the arts, I'm not saying everybody who's involved in the arts hated school, but there's that side of the brain that doesn't exactly love the structure piece.
Absolutely.
And I think that, those people that do love the school game and do love focusing in. I walked by a group of students, I think on Monday, and they were all sitting in the hallway. I'm like, what are y'all doing? And they were like, we're on a break for our test. And I'm like, what's the test? They go, AP Calculus. And I went, oh,
yep.
I'm getting out of here. That that doesn't sound like anything that I can handle. But those are the people, those are the people that are going to cure cancer. Those are the kids that are going to do some really amazing things. And I think, as we were talking about earlier with the differences between myself and a guy like Leon, who does a lot of our structure stuff, you need both superpowers. There's a reason the Avengers formed, and it's because they all have these different powers, and if you can put them all together, then we have a strong community. Then
that's
we have, and that's what we're doing with these kids, man. You're getting groups of kids together to work together on something to help their community.
Tom says everyone's got that side of the brain, but does Tom know? Is it the left or is it the right? I don't know. What's left is, I don't know. Tom's, I think, tapped into both.
I think so, too. I think, he'll say that he's extremely scatterbrained sometimes. I don't think that's the case. I think he pushes his brain to a different level. There's no sleeping with that guy.
No.
So I think because of that, that's what might cause the scatterbrained feeling for him.
Yeah.
But usually when you talk to him, he's like, sorry, man, I'm all over the place. I got 100 things going on. It's like, well, you just answered it right there. You have 100 things going on. You know what I mean? He's a focused guy. He's a detailed guy.
I'm the same exact way. The same exact way. Tom needs to learn. We all need to learn. Tom needs to learn the to-do list. Once you learn to tie shoes and 2 + 2, there are only 2 things that you have left to do. One of those things is what others ask you to do, and the other thing is what you want to do. Boom! Mic drop. That's it. Tom needs to have that page open all the time.
He does. He does. I'm laughing over here because I'm like, oh, that's Tom, man.
He says Captain ADHD.
Yeah, I don't think I can't remember. I think what ends up happening is I tell Tom something or someone tells Tom something.
Yeah.
And sometimes right away he's like, okay, but more often than not,
yes,
it's a couple months down the line. He's like, got it.
Yeah,
here's the game plan. You're like, all right,
sure.
But everyone takes their own route to get to whatever their game plan's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that one of the things I can always say about Sweethearts and Heroes that's amazing is, sometimes it might feel like we're moving in a million different directions.
True.
But we're going a million miles per hour in those different directions.
Yes, you are.
And we're not going to stop working.
Yeah,
and that's
baby.
the part about Sweethearts and Heroes that I love is like, this isn't we're going to show up. Okay, let's put a pin in it.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about this in a week. I learned very quickly that's not how this works.
No.
And if I am like, oh, well, I don't know about this, well, in the next week, somebody else is going to do it.
Yeah, right.
And then I'm going to be the one chasing after it going, wait, what are we doing here? Wait, hold on. Slow, hit the brakes here. So you got to keep moving because this ship is going full steam ahead,
Not to be weird here, but it's like you and Loudon and Brian and Rick, Tom, all of you, it's like I really see that you guys are like superheroes. You guys are like doing things, like you just said, that nobody else is doing. I mean, it's really aggressive what you guys are doing. You're like, no, we're not going to sit back and just let kids process the same regurgitated crap that's coming down. This is a different world that's going on right now. And we need to get involved with not only schools, but we really need to have a relationship with these kids and give them some tools.
Because they're the ones that are going to make the difference.
Oh, God, amen.
They're the ones that are going to look out for people. They're the ones that are going to help people. And
yeah, man.
I think I'm super excited. Tomorrow I go to Ticonderoga, which is one of my favorite places to go in the entire world.
Yeah.
Haley, who's going to be on here eventually, is from Ticonderoga.
Can't wait.
This group of students, when I first got there to run a Brave program where they go down and work with some of the elementary students on things like jumping into action, stopping bullying, all that good stuff.
Sure, right.
I first showed up, and the vulnerability that these kids had, the ability to tell stories. I mean, my man Carter was a freshman, and first day he's telling stories to all of us about like, well, I peed my pants once on a field trip, and you're like, who's brave enough to say that? Who's brave enough to just put themselves out there and show that superpower that they have? And
yes.
I realized that's just a part of their community. And community is a little bit different everywhere, and there's different things that can break apart community, whether it's the size of it. I go down to a school like I was just at. There's so many kids at that school. It takes me 2 days to get through the 9th grade.
Wow, man.
20 students, 20 students, 20 students, 20 students. Building community in that is a lot different than building community at a school like Shazy, New York, where you have 10 to 20 kids per grade level.
Sure.
Be a little bit more tight-knit, but things like poverty can influence your community.
Yeah.
Things like tragedy can influence your community. But you can take those bad things that happen and let it wreck community, or you can turn it into a superpower.
When you have this many kids in front of you, and I ask the same thing of Tom and everyone else, can you guys see hardship? You'll see a student, and you see them looking at you. You're looking at them, and you know right away, this kid's busted. There's something that's not that this kid is carrying some weight right now. I'm guessing that you see that all the time.
Yeah, it's, for me, there's a lot of research behind people that have experienced trauma. You can either let it get you, or down the line, a lot of those people who have experienced trauma become the best people for helping others based on what they've been through.
Tom says that.
And,
yes.
I had it happen this week, so I'm down on Long Island, for the weekend. My fiance's from down there, so, we get to spend Mother's Day with her mom, which was great. And Monday I'm going to be going down to this school, massive school, really tough for kids to become connected with their whole grade level because there's so many students in this grade level. And Sunday night I find out my grandma passes. So I'm having a tough day. I'm rolling out of bed, and usually I say, how you doing? Amazing, amazing, amazing. And my first amazing came out, and I went, ooh, I didn't like that. That felt fake. So I said, I'm doing. And I, first group of the day, I had like too many kids showed up. They accidentally sent 2 classes. So we had about 45 kids in this room. And I went, all right, I know y'all like to have fun, so let's have some fun. I'm not going to try and be mean, but if I don't have the energy I usually have, I apologize.
Yes.
And we had a lot of fun, probably too much fun. Chaos. We're playing all these games, throwing cups everywhere.
Yeah.
Hoopla is a really fun one. I'll have to show you that one sometime. But it gets done, and I'm just like, okay, this group's done. And all these kids, bell rings. You know how it goes in school. Second bell rings. Doesn't matter how fun what you're doing is.
Bang.
Boom. Because you got to go, kiss your girlfriend. You got to go get this bag from your locker. You didn't take your morning dump, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
You got to get out of there. I completely understand it.
Yes.
And these 2 young ladies who have helped out throughout the year just sat there, and they went, Pat, come here. And I come over, and I sit down, and they go, what was she like? And I'm like, and these 2 young ladies have been through some tough stuff. They've dealt with some serious stuff.
Yeah.
And they just saw from the look of it, that's not the normal Pat.
Ooh, you got caught, bro.
I got caught. And I started crying right there in front of these students. I'm tearing up right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
But these are students that are in a school where they say, this connection thing isn't happening because there's so many students here.
Wow.
But they know how to do it because they've been through it, and they've experienced it within their own communities, their family communities, their church communities, whatever their team communities.
Sure.
Those communities that they have, that's where they've learned the superpowers of helping other people out when they need it, giving hope,
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow. I want to just tell you about my morning and get your take on this. And I know Tom's listening this morning, and I really want to hear what he has to say about this too. One of the things that I've said to Tom and everyone, Loudon, Brian, Rick, so far, and they say the same. We've all said the same thing, is that kids today begin their days differently than we did 30, 40 years ago. I don't know why, but it's just different. Now we have devices, we have cell phones, we have different media. One of the first things we do in the morning is we power it up, and bang, right there in front of us is the bad news. There's so much of it. When I was a little kid.
Do you check too?
Dude, I do. You know, I'm guilty of it. It's like I want to know what's
Facebook, Instagram, what's your
Yes.
Yeah.
Both, all of the above. And I want to see what's going on. And a lot of the times I'm like I can go in and hop on the mic and relay this stuff. People want to know what's going on, good or bad. But it's already we got stuff that's starting to stick to our bones already. Some of us haven't even gotten out of bed yet, and we're like, oh my God, look at this, either locally or worldwide. Oh, look at what's happened. Oh, this, and kids they're carrying that, even subliminally, or there's something going on at home. No matter what it is, their dog is sick, the parents are fighting, whatever it may be. This morning, and they bring that to school. And some kids, quietly, it's renting space in their mind throughout the day. This morning was a morning that I won't forget. Beautiful sunny day. Lily and I are up. We're getting ready to go to school. She goes out. She's letting the chickens out of the coop, and she comes running in the house. Dad, there's a blue jay that's stuck in the chicken coop, and I got to rescue this thing. And I'm like, right away, instantly, I'm like, no time. We're late for school. Got to go. And she's like, yeah, but Dad, I'll take care of it after I bring you to school. I'll come back to the house. I'll take care of the stuck blue jay. You need to get your shoes on. Do you have the stuff that you need? Do you have your backpack? Do you have the stuff that you need for school today? Don't forget about softball practice afterwards. You got your bat, your glove. Dad, come on. And I'm like, whoa, hang on a second. I'm just trying to tap the brakes. I'm like, whoa. All of a sudden, I'm like, there's an opportunity here. What's most important? I don't know. What's most important? That we're on time for school, or that she has this experience? And all of a sudden, it flushed over me. I'm like, I don't give a damn if we're running late for school for whatever it takes, 10, 15 minutes, whatever. Let her do this. Let her have this experience, man. So she did. And I just said, just forget about it for being on time for school. School's not going anywhere. It's not going to be that big of a deal. This is important. This is more important. So she went out there, and long story short, she rescued the blue jay, got the blue jay, brought it out. I've taken video of it, taken pictures of it. And she got the blue jay in her hand, and she's holding it. She's cradling it. And I'm like, let's just take some time, because I've never had a blue jay in my hands. This is a beautiful bird. Take your time and look up close at the markings, and look at this long black beak. Isn't that amazing? Mm-hmm. Look at this bird up close. Enjoy this moment. Take your time.
You won't forget that.
I know. And then she starts in with, well, Dad, we are kind of running a little late. And I'm like, whoa. Wow. Just forget about school for a second. Just enjoy this. Look at this bird. This is beautiful.
Forget about the stresses.
Forget about the stresses.
I think one of the...
What say you about this? Okay, let's say Pat Fish on here, and Tom, too. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I think you'll see where I'm going with this, but I think one of the biggest disservices done in music history is the portrayal of Bob Marley as a pothead. He smoked for religious purposes, and that's besides the point of the conversation. But as you were talking about it, I thought of the song Three Little Birds, right? And that whole song is about that patience, right? Three little birds sitting on your doorstep, singing sweet songs, melodies pure and true. This is our message to you. Everything's going to be all right. Everything's fine. It's all good. And, too much we get caught in this world of, okay, we got this. Oh, you got this coming up. And, let it stress you out. And,
gotta go.
Yeah, there's an amazing study that was done at Brigham Young University on seminary students. And what they did was they took these seminary students, and half the group, they were all going to give a sermon on loving thy neighbor, essentially.
Sure, yeah.
And half the study group, what they did was they told them, hey, you got to get over there. You're running a little late. It's going to start. And the other group, they're like, you got all the time in the world. Now, for everyone, what they did was they had an actor playing a homeless guy asking for money on their walkover. And they found overwhelmingly that the group that actually had the time and the patience to be able to stop, have a conversation, not only were they giving money, but a lot of them ended up talking about this interaction that they had in their sermons, whereas overwhelmingly the group that was rushed walked right by. And there's a poem in there called 3 Minute Walks, and it's all about, hey, we're expecting our young people to stick up for each other, and all they got is 3 minute walks. And from one bell to the next. And when you have a test coming up, your girlfriend just broke up with you, you're not sure if you're going to make the sports team. And on top of that, you and your dad are fighting about, the fact that you left dishes in the sink. And you see somebody getting treated the wrong way who's going through hell on their own.
Yeah, that you don't know about.
That you don't even know about. And you see that happening, you're going to walk right by. Because you have so many things going on.
Damn.
But if you just take the time and realize, hey, everything's going to be all right. These aren't the biggest stressors in the world. You need to remember that. It's a difficult thing. But, we portray those people as potheads, like Bob Marley.
Right.
And, Fool on the Hill and the Beatles. That's what that song is about. It's about, those people that are on the outside looking in that are like, hey, some of this stuff is crazy. What are we doing here?
Sure.
Those people might have it figured out sometimes.
Yeah. Wow.
You just got to listen to them.
Else? Damn. Because we're so freestyle here. And I know we're all over the road, but I just have to ask you this. And obviously I want to hear what Tom has to say too. Here's this experience. Listen, I'm shifting a major gear here.
Yeah.
And I understand. And I'm changing.
I'm ready.
Changing the song. I know you are. but I want to hear what you have to say about this, because this kind of stuff has happened to me before. Here we are. We have this great experience. We're late. But I'm not stressing about it. Lily's not stressing about it. She walked out. She held this blue jay in her hand for quite a while. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Fly away. And I'm like, no. She's like, Dad, it's not flying away. It's my hand is open. I'm not covering it down with my other hand. It's just sitting there on the top of my hand. Is it injured? It's not injured. It's very healthy. It's just processing. It's freedom. It will take flight. Be patient. We're in no rush. Take your time. Yeah, but Dad, it's not flying. Yeah. We went through that for quite a while. And I said, I'm telling you, any second now, bang, it's gone once it realizes. And sure enough, that exact thing happened, and it took off right out of her hand, and she watched it fly up to the tree. And she, of course, 10 years old, she had to name it Louie.
It's a great question. I would ask that to kids. If a bird flew into your hands, what would you name it?
Ooh. Will you ask that?
No, I would ask that.
I'm saying, will you ask that of kids when next time you come across them?
Literally, the next school I go to, I will ask. I'm in Salem doing circles on Friday. So Ticonderoga, we have community day tomorrow, so I won't be doing any circles. Friday, very first group, I'll send it to Aired Out. I'm going to get it on video for you. I'll say, Bluebird flies in your hand. What are you naming it? Why?
Wow.
Yeah.
So Louie's hanging out up in the tree, chirping, happy. She's watching it. Everything's great. She was so happy. Okay. I'm gonna throw something at you here that you're probably not expecting, and I want to see how you react, and I want to see what Tom and Rick have to say about this too. She's so happy, beaming smile. So am I. We get in the car, turn the key on. Radio's on. Radio's on pretty loud. She's all smiles. Instantly, when the radio comes on, we hear the news, because it's 8 o'clock now. National news is just hitting the radio. And the volume was already up. And she hears the words, 20 children died in Gaza yesterday from all the fighting. And that freaking smile vanished from her face in a half a second, Pat. Gone. And she looked at the radio. Her eyes went right to the radio, and it was like, I can't even imitate the look on her face, but it was. And she just looked at the radio, and I was like, oh shit. And I reached up, and when I went, and I shut the radio off, and I'm like, uh-oh. And she was quiet. We're pulling out of the driveway. There's probably, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds of silence where I'm going, what do I do? What do I say? And I said, that was unbelievable that you rescued that blue jay and that it flew away like that. You're a hero. I mean, this is incredible. What an experience. I've never had a chance to hold a blue jay in my life. Wait till Mommy sees the pictures that I took. And I look over at her, and she's silent. And she's looking out the window to the right. And there's like a good 10, 15 seconds of silence. And then she goes, Dad? And I went, oh, shit, here it comes. Why are kids dying from fighting? She doesn't know what fighting. She doesn't know war. She heard the F word, fighting. Why are kids dying from fighting? What did they do? That fucked up the rest of the drive to school in the morning. Pat.
It's a powerful morning you've had.
Dude, roller coaster, bro. Huh. And I'm like, how do I steer through this? What do I say before she gets out of my car and and walks into school. Tom, what say you, bud? Are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah. What say you, pal? What are you saying? Are you there?
Me?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Tom?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I'm on?
Yeah, you're live, bud.
Oh, shoot. I wanted to hear what Pat had to say first.
Well, let's take it to Pat first and then you.
Yeah, man.
All right, go, Pat.
It's such a roller coaster, as you said. Hi, Tom, by the way. I got this brother-in-law, or soon-to-be brother-in-law, once I get married this summer, but he works out in the Coast Guard in Washington. And he had his very first, this is in the past week, they go on those big cutter boats that save people once they've gone overboard, and those self-correcting mechanisms.
Sure.
And he's been there for about a year, and usually once you've been there for a year, you've seen your first death.
Yeah.
He saw his first one this week.
Oh, wow.
And I think what's amazing that they do is, because they're so prepared for it, because they've dealt with it so much on this base where, you go out and save people, they're not always going to make it. It's a dangerous job.
Sure.
They're very prepared when it comes to dealing with that trauma of, you got all these 18 to 24-year-old, young men seeing their first ever dead body. It's
Sure.
a scary, scary thing. And so he went out this past week, and a boat was essentially leaking from the bottom. And 4 men on the boat, they saved 3. Captain went down with the ship.
This real story. This
real
just,
story.
This
This
just
is-
happened.
Yeah, this just happened. I mean, you can look up the story, Coast Guard, and I know he lives in Olympia, Washington, so it's whatever the base is coming off of Washington, but a boat of 4, the captain didn't make it. But on the FaceTime with him, his sister's all worried, his mom's all worried because I was spending Mother's Day with them, and they're like, how's he going to deal with that? And the way that he's dealt with that is he's got these brothers. He's got these brothers that have experienced it, that are saying, hey, putting their arm around him, and hey, this is how we deal with it. And they deal with it with, some of them have a sick sense of humor, I'm sure.
Sure.
Because when you've been through tough stuff, ask Rick, you can make jokes about that tough stuff that you've been through, but they're there for him. And I think what's so difficult about hearing a situation like that, especially as a young kid, even as an adult, me, you hear about what's going on in Gaza, and I can't put my arms around them.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go over there and give somebody a free hug.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here with you.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have these intergroups, and you're more likely to give that empathy to the people that you care about, the people that are around you, and we can help those people that we get to see.
Sure.
I met a guy this morning waiting outside your studio that came by and gave a hug to that guy. And but when
Did you really?
Yeah. He came
Freaking
by. I was
awesome.
sitting on the bench waiting I was looking inside your studio, and a guy came by, and I don't know, what he was going to use it for. I only had $2 in my pocket, but give him, and that's not to brag or anything like that. It was $2. But it led to a neat, interesting conversation. I got to give that guy a hug and, maybe help him out. But I can't do that all the way over there. And if I do, who's it helping? What's it helping? That's what's so challenging about that for me, and especially, through the eyes of a 10-year-old that doesn't even understand it at my level, which isn't a high level. Like, you go...
That doesn't even understand what war is.
Yeah. And...
Just hears the word fighting.
And whereas, the boys in her class are like, Fortnite, that's what war is, right? We're shooting each other. This stuff's fun. And it's not. Tom, how we doing, man?
Oh, man, Pat, you just blew my mind on a couple things.
You
I
on
was
there?
playing Will You Be... Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just blew my mind on a couple things, Pat. Wow. Let me first say, JD, what a special young man Pat Fish is. And he's becoming an old man now. But he oh, man, I have so many things I want to say. And Pat knows I'll ramble for an hour if you let me. But I'll try and make this pretty tight. And, the one thing Pat left out of his story when I first met him with his gym teacher, his football coach, the guy looked across and he said, "You know who that is?" And I said, "No, not at all." He said, "That's Pat Fish." And I said, "Oh, Mark's son." He said, "Yeah." And he said he made his whole class better And Pat graduated with 300 young people. And I said, I got to meet this guy. And that's the kind of young man that you're sitting there with. Is he just makes people better, the good, the bad, the ugly. He just makes them all better. And that makes me want to choke up because I know what he does every day out there in the field. But JD, I love your story. I got a Blue Jay story. You need to look up Blue Jays, Google it, and you'll see what the meaning of a Blue Jay is. I'll save that for you later on. But I just had a Blue Jay story myself that would take too long to tell you. Just rocked me when you brought up Blue Jays. I'm like, this is impossible. I'm going to talk about Blue Jays in Des Moines next week to linemen. And much like our children today that are facing unprecedented destructive decisions, linemen that bring power to our nation are facing the same, maybe even at a greater rate. Grown men, huge. But just to kind of pull your story together and give you what I believe the answer is, and it's what you've been talking about here. Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote the Gulag Archipelago, and he said the battle between good and evil runs down through the center of every human heart. And what you're talking about, and not to get biblical on you, but it's from the very first chapter in the book of Genesis, and it's not a religious thing, but from day one we've been fighting good and evil, and we're still doing the same fight. It's the same exact fight. You have a life in your hand in 1 minute, and the next minute your daughter's being exposed to the unimaginable tragedy, the unimaginable. And what I say to you, JD, is what an opportunity. What an opportunity to connect the two. Because unfortunately, in our society, we run and we hide a lot of this stuff from children. Now, I have 4 kids, and I know what is age appropriate and what isn't. But when your daughter's exposed to something like that, we can't run from it. We can't hide it. We can't wish it didn't happen because it happened. And Rick Yaris taught me that. He said, do you think, he says to kids all the time, do you think I wanted to get blown up? Of course not, but it happened. And what an opportunity to share with your daughter the love that she had in her hand, that when she gets a little bit older, she could bring to those children. And she'll be the one that changes the world. Not you, not me, not Pat Fish, her. Because our children are not our future. We have to stop telling ourselves that. They are our present. It is our job to shepherd them. And it's our job to, when they discover and they feel that love, it's to teach them that that is the answer. And a lot of potheads wrote about that one right there and sung about that one right there. But that's the answer. It's love. It's loving your neighbor. That crazy Jew that ran around the hills of Judea tried to teach us that one years ago. And guess what? We didn't want to hear it, so we put him up on a cross, if that whole story's true. And but that's the answer, and that's what Pat Fish is doing. And JD, that's what you're doing by giving us this wonderful opportunity to share some of these great stories and messages. So thank you, buddy.
Thanks, brother. What a guy, huh? He knows what he's saying.
He does.
Jeez.
Sometimes he just pops out with random stuff, and I'm like, dude, where did that come from?
Yeah. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm bringing up like Lil Wayne quotes and
right. I think it's coming from the right side, though. Yeah. What a guy.
Yeah.
Listen, man. Where do we get your book? The illustration, by the way, is amazing.
That's Kevin Cannon. Shout out Kevin Cannon. He actually illustrated Rick's book as well. He's an elementary art teacher. We found him in OESJ school district. I'm not going to say the words out loud because I butcher the pronunciation of their school district every single time I try and say it. So
yeah.
OESJ. I know they're the Wolves. He's an awesome art teacher who's just been super involved with us, and he was right along with me, and I would talk with him, and I'm like, we got to make this fun, so that's why there's P on the front cover, and people writing on the stalls and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But if you want the book, you can check that out. Sweetheartsandheroes.com can get you access to any of our books as well. It's on Amazon. Just Boredom School for those bored in school. And I really think at first, it was a book that I thought would fit in like, middle school. There's some high school lessons because I don't know how to write for a certain audience, a certain age group, but I've just been fascinated with who connects with what. And I think some poems connect more with older kids, some connect better with younger kids.
Yeah.
I think I had a teacher this year who has a special education classroom of high schoolers, and she told me that they were reading it this year for their, for their group book, and they loved it because socially, as you know, socially, a lot of the people that have special needs they have the same social issues that we do, but we don't want to talk about, okay, they're sexually interested in other people,
right.
and there's breakups, and because we're like, no, they're different than us, but they go through a lot of the same feelings that we go through, and she said it just kind of fit their reading level a little bit better. Because they have, they might have a different reading level than some of us. But
right.
I've found that no matter who you are, there's at least one poem in there that'll make you smile, and that's what we're trying to do.
Rick just dropped a comment here saying Tom has no clue what he's saying. What the hell's that all about?
That's a general consensus by myself and Rick. I love him. I think that's what works so well, and the reason that Tom and Rick didn't kill each other for the first 10 to 15 years before I even showed up is that Tom can get very, very serious about this stuff because he truly believes in all of this stuff, and that's a great, great superpower that he has. But a guy like Rick, if you're not all for the quotes from this guy and the super, high intellectual stuff, and then Rick will go, all right, dude, chill. Like, who's your favorite football team? Like, let's talk. Let's. And I think that balance, it's an important balance to have. It's the Justice League, the Avengers. You have different superpowers. Yeah. And I think that's why we as a group come together so well. And why having a guy like you bring us on here and help us out is such an amazing thing, because, your superpower is that you can talk. Yeah. You got the gift of gab, and you coming on here with us and allowing us to spread our message with you is a really amazing thing. So thank you for that, man.
Tom said to me, Leon said to me, where do you meet this guy? And I'm like, well, what's Pat? What's the deal? What's Pat all about? Just wait till you meet this guy. And I'm like, wow, man. It says right here, you're a superhero, an organizational psychologist, and poet from South Glens Falls, New York. As a presenter and program director with Sweethearts and Heroes, he's spent time listening to students of all ages and backgrounds across the northeastern United States. You're an unusual guy. You're
I've been told,
with a lyrical mind. So and I've had some pressure this morning from Tom for you to do some rapping. What the hell is this all about? What's going on here?
This guy.
I mean, you don't have to.
No, I'm always down, man. I need words. I need, all that fun stuff.
Do you do some improv?
So that's where you said freestyle, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm all about it, man. I truly, the poem stuff came from boredom. When I was in high school, actually, I think we did a project on something. Oh, it was on drugs in health class. And there was a song by a group called Naughty by Nature.
Oh, I remember.
And it was, OPP, right? That's the one that everybody knows.
Yes,
and,
of course.
It just turned out that our project had to be on the drug PCP, and we had to talk about the dangers of PCP. And I sat down and I was like, okay, I know that OPP and PCP goes together. So do you know about PCP? Yeah, you know me. You know about PCP? Yeah, you know. So that whole part was done. And then I was like, all right. And I started going in on like, okay, so PCP is a dissociative anesthetic. The 1950s was when it was invented, and when patients used it, they began to act demented. So in the 60s, the government said, forget it. And I just started going in on it, and I was like, wow, I'm actually really good at this. And so sure enough, the next day we had a table of kids that always used to try rapping, and I just kind of went and sat with them one day, and I was like, can I try? And they were like, sure. And then I did it, and they were like, what just happened, dude? Why are you good at this? And I had no idea whether it was Shel Silverstein or the too much Lil Wayne in the brain, but
Yeah, right.
from there went to college and did all freestyle battles and been on plenty of radio stations because of that.
Really?
So I'm used to getting interviewed in a different way, but it's fun doing it now with the Sweethearts and Heroes stuff. You can't curse when you're in schools, right?
Yeah.
So the freestyling becomes a little bit more challenging, but
I mean,
it's fun stuff, man.
when Tom's asking you to rap about a Blue Jay named Louis, maybe at some point, that can happen. And it doesn't have to be right here, right now. I'm just saying, maybe someday.
I could do it right here, right now.
You can't? Are you serious?
Yeah. So, obviously you got to get like the tap going of some kind, right? And then I could just do that in my head. That part's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, here's where I'll go. Talking about a Blue Jay, not from Toronto, with my man JD in the studio. You already know how this gonna go. And now Pat's going off of the top. Yeah, every time I rap, it's amazing. Damn, talking about a story about his daughter. And the time this morning found a Blue Jay in her hand. Then they got in the car and on the radio, he said, ooh, I wonder how this song gonna go. But they heard something different, something way worse. And he felt bad, turned it off like a nurse in a hospital. Got to go. But every time I start rapping, I just got to flow. So then he learned a lesson about life and why there's a good, there's an evil side. Right? So if you got to go and be nice, well, we can repeat that. Maybe do it twice. If you do it 3 times, then you start a life of giving more hope, the sweetheart inside. Giving hope to others, that's what you got to do. And I'm getting tired, so adios, I do. Whew. How was that? Not bad.